Yo, I'm glad you like the song. Let's see, how'd it go? Like, don't you ever stop and think sometimes? Could have been us, could have been wonderful, yes, sweet, yes. Found a new love in your life. Could have been us, could have been wonderful, yes, sweet, yes. Something about it don't sit right. Could have been us, could have been wonderful, wonderful, yes. Something like that.
Hello, and welcome. You are absolutely welcome to my channel once again. This is the Afro Atheist. And guys, if you're not subscribed, please make sure to subscribe. Turn on your notification bells. And when you're done watching, make sure to leave this video a thumbs up. It helps the video, helps to promote the video. For those of you who are new to my channel, I welcome you. On my channel, I talk about religion, how we can be good without religion. We can be good without God. I'm an ex-Christian who is now an atheist, and I recognize that many people are religious, but some of us are actually starting to realize that we do not need religion to be good people. We can be good without no God in our lives. And we're happy, we're fulfilled, and we're living a very guilt free, shame free existence. And that's the way to go. Living a secular life and just living life and enjoying it without a God dictating anything, what we must do, how we must live our lives, who we must talk to, who we must marry, who we must have sex with or not have sex with. We don't have any of that. Okay, we're decent people. So, guys, make sure you're subscribed. Now, racism. I'm going to talk about a lady who, because of the size of her butt, her bum, her buttocks, this lady was made to be a spectacle. She was made an object of, she was fetishized, hypersexualized. This lady was by white men. White men who took advantage of her. Her case is horrific. When I first heard this story, it broke my heart. And of course, I had to come and talk about it just to bring, just so that we can see what happened once upon a time. For a lot of us now, like myself, I identify as a BBW, right? I think I'm endowed in the front and in the back. It's just there. Maybe not as huge as the lady I'm about to talk about, but can you imagine that once upon a time, people with large parts to their body would be objectified like this? It's rather sickening. Okay, let's go and look at this, the case of Sarah. So, Sarah, also known as Saji, her name when she was born was Saji, and then she was nicknamed Hottentot Venus. She's a late century woman, late 18th century woman from the Eastern Cape, which is now the modern day South Africa, who was used as an object of spectacle to please the white masters across Europe. She suffered from a condition called steatophagia. She had excess fatty tissue around her hips and her backside. She was hypersexualized and mocked, and she represents a very dark time in Black history. Many people still associate her with the fetishization and the hypersexualization of curvy black women by white folk. In the 1770s, Sarge was born in the Kamdibu Valley in the eastern part of the Cape Colony, modern day South Africa. After her birth, her family moved to Gomtus Valley. As she grew up, she suffered with this condition that made her have excessive fatty tissue around her waist and her buttocks. While the African woman is usually curvy, her own curves were very pronounced. In 1810, she moved to England with her employer, Hendrik Caesars, and an English doctor, William Dunlop. It was during her time in Manchester, England, that was where she was baptized. Of course, she was introduced to religion, probably indoctrinated into Christianity, and now renamed. What is it with Christianity and wanting to take over people's lives? What is it with Christianity and trying to control people's lives? Why can't they keep their names in Christianity? African names. What is wrong with people keeping their names in Christianity? You make people change their names. So this lady, upon everything that she had to go through, now she has encountered Christianity and she has to change her name to Sarah. When she first left Cape, she was under the pretext of being treated of her rare condition in Piccadilly, London. But instead, the men who took her started to show her for money across England and Ireland, and they would keep the money for themselves. Her curves were brought out in very scanty outfits to satisfy the vain folly and fetish of the white master. This happened way before slavery was abolished in 1880. When she was getting displayed at these exhibitions, the British abolitionists, who were aggressively campaigning against slavery, they saw her and they saw the condition of duress that she was made to perform under, as well as the indentured servitude that she was made to go through. Guys, this woman, the people who took her were Christians. The people who were doing all of this to her, they were Christians. Made her go through. She was an indentured servant. She was. Some parts of history even said that the white women, don't think that the white women were not involved here. The white women, they treated her poorly, while the white men used to poke her with sticks. The British abolitionists then decided to seek redress for Sarah's unfair treatment in court. But however, the court infamously ruled in favor of the derogatory exhibition after her master, William Dunlop, produced a contentious document. It was meant to be a contract that was signed between Dunlop and illiterate Sarah. After Dunlop died, Henry Taylor took Sarah to Paris and made her thrill the onlookers over there. Over there in Paris, a scientist named George Cuvier researched and experimented on her as he aimed to find a link between man and animals. Can you imagine using the black woman to find a link between men and animals? According to Wikipedia sources, Sarah was then sold to Sean Rue. Can you imagine? After your indentured servitude, now she's now sold to someone else. And some people will come and tell me it was okay to be sold as long as you were treated fairly. One YouTuber that said this, he said, "Oh, as long as you're treated fairly." Anyway, she was sold to Shonru, and Shonru raped and impregnated her as an experiment. A daughter was born, which they named Okura Ru, but she died at the age of 5. Throughout this time, Sarah lived in penury and couldn't afford to feed. In December 1815, she died in Paris, France. And this woman's body, until 2002, remained over there. Do you know that they put her remains in a museum? It was on display in France. That's where this lady's remains was on display. So what is the significance for us? What is the significance for us today? The British Empire, they had abolished the slave trade by this time, but they had not abolished slavery. So the campaigners who were appalled by Sarah's treatment, they tried their best, but you know what happened? They were not successful because the white man who was in charge of her produced this document. She was coerced, as the abolitionist campaigners claimed. Some say she was acting on her own free will. They said if she was coerced, she might have felt too intimidated to tell the truth in court, but we will never know. Sarah's case was very complex, and the relationship between her and her handlers was not equally weighted. Of course it wasn't. Even if she had some element of choice, or she felt she could gain something, material or otherwise, from her performance, the relationship was still not equally weighted. So this lady would be made to dance and play several musical instruments to the London audience. So slowly, her show began to lose its novelty and popularity. She would go on tour around Britain and Ireland. In 1814, she moved to Paris with Caesars. She became a celebrity once more, drinking at Café de Paris and attending society parties. Caesars then returned to South Africa, and Sarah came under the influence of an animal exhibitor with the stage name Rue. She drank and smoked heavily, according to Holmes, and she was probably prostituted by him after he had raped her. Sarah agreed to be studied and painted by a group of scientists and artists, but she refused to appear fully naked before them, arguing that this was beneath her dignity. She had never done this in any of her shows, as she wasn't prepared to do it. And then this is the period where they started to study what was now known as racial science. She died at the age of 26. The cause of her death was described as inflammatory and eruptive disease. It has also been suggested that it was a result of pneumonia, syphilis, or alcoholism. So the man who once danced with Sarah at one of Rue's parties, he made a plaster cast of her body. Before dissecting her body, he then preserved her skeleton and pickled her brains and genitals, placing them in jars displayed at the Paris Museum of Man. Sarah's remains remained on public display until 1974, something that has since been described as grotesque. The domination of Africans was explained with the aid of science, thereby establishing the Caucasian as the most ignoble group in the progression of mankind, purported to mate with the orangutan. After his election in 1994 as president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela requested the repatriation of Sarah Baartman's remains and Cuvier's plaster cast of her. The French government eventually agreed, and this happened in March 2002. In August of 2002, her remains were finally buried in Hanki in East Cape Province, 192 years after Sarah Baartman had left for Europe. Several books have been published about her treatment and cultural significance. She has become the landscape upon which multiple narratives of exploitation and suffering within Black womanhood have been enacted. There is talks right now that they're trying to do a remake of her story, and that maybe Beyonce might act in this. Well, word on the street, they said Beyonce maybe not. Some have said Beyonce is not worth to walk in the shoes, to even come anywhere near the script, if there is ever any. Some have said it would be a disrespect to her name. But guys, it's really sad that once upon a time, women who had bodies like Sarah Baartman, Saji, in fact, let me call her Saji. Sarah was the name that was given to her after she came into contact with that toxic religion called Christianity. Her name was Saji. It's just so heartbreaking. The plight of this woman is just so heartbreaking. But hey, at least we get to tell her story. She's now seen as a beacon of Black womanhood, the suffering that Black women have had to go through over the years. Guys, I know this is one of those heavy subjects, but hey, please let me know what your thoughts are about this video. Very touching. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I will catch you in the next video.